Hi, my name is Jordan, and the first word that I selected from the list in Unit 1 was demographic homophily. And I said the definition is a set of how similar someone is to a person in age, gender, nationality, career, ethnicity, etc. The second term that I selected in Unit 2 was narcissistic, and that is someone who has an excessive or erotic interest in themselves and or in their physical appearance. And then the third term that I selected from Unit 3 was organization, and I said an organization is an organized body of people with a particular purpose. And then all three of these terms are important because we need to have some sort of interaction that are associated with all these terms in our lives. They kind of help keep us in check and in balance and healthy. The movie that I chose was The Help. I had never seen this movie, so that's kind of why I selected it. So a little background on the movie that I selected. It takes place in Jackson, Mississippi during the Civil Rights Movement. It's about this girl named Skeeter Flem who returns back to her family's cotton plantation called the Longleaf. She finds out that her maid slash nanny, Constantine, had left, and no one is willing to tell her why. Skeeter just finished college, so she lands a job writing the housekeeping column called the Miss Myron for the local newspaper company in her hometown. Skeeter didn't really know anything about housekeeping, so she seeks advice from one of her friends, the maid of one of her friends, called Albanine. Albanine has worked in 7 houses as a maid prior. She struggles with the loss of her son, so she tries to keep herself busy and tries to help um, raise the family's children, kind of help with this, supporting the Black lives, I guess, and not being so racist. Um, and then Skeeter received a letter from a New York publisher interested in having Skeeter write the true stories of the domestic servants. Skeeter suggests the idea to Albeline to have written narratives from the viewpoint of 12 black maids. Albeline agrees, along with many of the other maids that Albeline is friends with, to tell their stories. During the writing, Skeeter finds out what happened to Constantine. Constantine had a daughter who she had given up for adoption, and the daughter actually came to visit Constantine at work. It was a poor timing though, because Constantine was at a work party, and when her daughter actually got to the Flynn household, Charlotte Flynn, the owner, discovered that Constantine had a daughter. She kicked and fired Constantine out of the house. Constantine was forced to move with her daughter, and she actually shortly later died. Um, Skeeter releases a book with all the stories of the Black Maids, and it soon becomes a bestseller. Many of the white girls in town recognize themselves in the stories in the book. A girl named Hilly, who's kind of the big boss, bosses around all the other girls in town, and used to be best friends with Skeeter. Growing up, is out to get vengeance because of some of the details that she read about her in her story about herself. Um, Minnie tells, but Minnie, one of the black maids, actually tells Skeeter a secret that finally shuts her up, and then the book broke the line kind of between the black and whites in the town. So the way that I relate demographic homophily to my life is my friends mainly. Someone that I am the same age as, someone that I have the same interests in, maybe sometimes the same ethnicity, possibly job careers if we're going into the same major. And the way I can relate this to the movie is the Black Maids. I mean, they all have similar stories that kind of relate to one another, their experiences, their struggles. Um, the second term, narcissistic, I guess the way that I can relate this one to my life is we have people that we work with or maybe, and sometimes friends, family members that always think highly of themselves, and they're number one, they're ultimate. I can think of one person I used to work with that was always her way. She was always right. Um, and I guess I can relate that to the movie because of Hilly. She was in charge of all the girls in the town, and it was always her way, and she was always right, and she always knew what was better. So the third term, organization, I can relate that to my life because extracurricular activities. My previous school, I was involved in the pre-vet club, and I can relate that to the movie just because in the way that they came to tell the black maids came to tell their stories. They kind of organized a group and would all tell Skeeter their stories one by one. And what I have learned from from these terms, and after watching this movie, is I can see how the terms that I selected are very important in communicating with one another, especially because it's easier to find people that we know, like this demographic homophily, people with the same interests, same, you know, um, organizations, getting to know people in the same, like I said, like the same interests, the same field. And then narcissistic, we have to learn how to deal with those people, even if we don't always think that they're right.